Welcome, everyone, to this special edition of the Mad Nerds podcast here on a big News Wednesday. I am, of course, your host, Dave Superhero Deuce, and I'm here with Mike.
Yes, Mike is the hat on your various internet channels.
And there is some huge news that came out today. That's why we wanted to do this special podcast here in the midweek. It doesn't have a title, doesn't have an episode number. This is just us having a discussion about Warner Brothers announcing its upcoming slate of DC-related films. They finally decided to break the ice on this. They finally decided to open the vaults and allow DC Comics characters to make their way to the big screen. And we're just going to go right down the list. We're going to break them down one by one and kind of how we think ultimately all of these are going to play into a bigger DC universe or maybe stand alone on their own. We're not really sure at this point, except for a few of them we know are going to tie together. So, of course, the one that we all know is in 2016, Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice is coming out, directed by Zack Snyder.
Yeah, that's the big one, obviously. Like you just said, we've known about this for, I want to say, the better part of 2 years now. We know Batman and Superman are coming together to do their, Dark Knight Returns type thing. We talked about it last week on the show, and I think in the first episode ever. Big movie for DC, big movie for Warner Brothers. That's going to draw a lot of the proverbial ducats, as I like to call them, the big dollars.
Right, you've got your big three in that film. You have Batman, you have Superman, and you have Wonder Woman, although I'm not quite sure how much they're going to play into her origin during the film. I think she's probably just going to show up and they're like, well, we'll explain it later, as a matter of fact in the next year, but we'll get to that. Yeah, this is the one that we didn't know. It's been in development for a while. It's shooting. We have concept art. We have set pictures. So this one was no surprise at all, but you had to put it on there so that everybody could kind of see, okay, this is where we're going with this.
Yeah, people have been up in arms about the casting in this movie because of Ben Affleck, but as we see the pictures coming out, a lot more people see that like Ben Affleck as Batman thing seems to have died down a lot.
Yeah, because he's playing a different incarnation of Batman, and I think that anybody who's seen the animated film or who read the comics, they understand, you know what, Ben Affleck at this point in his career is perfect for this role. It actually makes a lot of sense to have him as this Batman because it's an older Batman who's kind of been doing this for a while, and he really is more of a detective than he is a puncher at this point. He's very savvy, He's going to probably do a lot of the things that Christian Bale won't do, or didn't do, when he was in The Dark Knight, and which was detective work. So I think he's going to be fine. I'm still not sold on Gal Gadot. I know she's exercising. I know she's getting big. But something about her just doesn't sell me as Wonder Woman. But maybe she'll prove me wrong. I hope she does, at least. I want to see an amazing female superhero on screen.
Yeah, and Wonder Woman is kind of that character that nobody's really touched since Linda Carter in like the late 70s Wonder Woman TV show. And everybody still has that iconic image of her in the Wonder Woman costume. So I'm interested to see where this goes as well.
Right, and we're going to discuss more of that in our New York Comic-Con episode that's going to be coming out too. That Linda Carter's Wonder Woman is going to be adapted into a comic book series. So that's going to be awesome. But so moving right along, we don't want to spend too much time on that one because, of course, the rest of these are where it really gets interesting. Starting with later on in 2016, they are going to have the Suicide Squad, directed by David Ayer. Now, Mike, this one kind of put us off a little bit. We were really surprised to see this on the list, man.
Yeah, it's a surprising pick, but in all honesty, to me, this is the most intriguing one. Like the Justice League that we'll get to, and like the other stuff on this list, doesn't pique my interest as much as the Suicide Squad thing does because there are so many different ways that this one can go. Because this is a comic that started way back in the Silver Age. So what do they, like, this is where I'm wondering. Here's Suicide Squad started in 1959. You know what I mean? So, like, where do they go from here? Do they grab an early Suicide Squad group, or are they going with the latest
latest incarnation of
the new Suicide Squad, which actually just started at the beginning of last month. So there's a lot of places they can go. The storyline with this is kind of weird. I want to see how they're going to make all of these villains tie in together, because that is the Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad is made up of villains of the DC universe. Most of them seem to be Batman villains a lot of the time, or some sort of offshoot where they cross over to multiple DC heroes.
Yeah, this is the thing about this that really has my interest is this idea that, you know what, the New 52 edition, I think that they're going to go with a story maybe from the past, but they're going to make it the New 52 because this whole idea of a villains film is kind of new. You know, the Spider-Man franchise is doing the Sinister Six, and nobody's sure how that's going to go. And now DC and Warner Brothers want to do a Suicide Squad film. Like, are they ever going to match up with the Justice League? Heck, I don't know. But this is for those of you who aren't familiar, this is the New 52 version of the new Suicide Squad. You have Black Manta, who of course is one of the main villains of Aquaman. You have Deadshot, you have Deathstroke, you have Harley Quinn, and the Joker's daughter. So don't tell me that just doesn't scream, hey, look, all of the villains from the upcoming Justice League film, all in one place.
Now, see, what the Suicide Squad does, though, is it more works for the government in Black Ops missions. So I don't know if they'd go head-to-head with the Justice League, so to speak. That was more like a, Legion of Doom, Lex Luthor and stuff.
Right, which I'm sure we'll talk about that here in a minute as well.
The Suicide Squad's more of like the anti-heroes. So, like, your bad guys that are forced to do good because they're they have this life sentence of prison and probably a death sentence hanging over their head, and they're like, if you do this, we can start knocking years off.
Yeah, this will be fun if they put Deathstroke in this movie, because that would mean Deadpool and Deathstroke are on film in the same year.
Exactly.
With Deadpool coming out in February and the Suicide Squad coming out later. That would just be hilarious. I would love that.
Yeah, and if they put Harley Quinn in it, that's the biggest reason I'm intrigued by this. I want to see who they're going to get to play Harleen Quinzel.
Oh yeah, she is a character that is, of course, a favorite of a lot of DC fans because she is very unique in a lot of the things that she does, and she's a very strong, character. And Mike, what else can you tell the listeners about Harley Quinn and what makes her so special?
Well, I mean, the fact that she's like crazy. She was a former, psychiatrist that was there to treat the Joker and then become like infatuated with him to the point where she went nuts herself and became a villain at his side. And she, like, the whole dynamic in the Suicide Squad, I think it's Volume 4, the one that ran from 2011 to 2014 that I'm catching up on before I start New Suicide Squad, is she's gone, crazy. I talked about it on the podcast where she has like this weird sexual thing with Deadshot when she put Joker's dead face on him and he shot her, but it turned her into now she has like a dual personality in that book where she can be Harley Quinn, the psychopath killer that the Joker knew, but she can go back to being Dr. Harleen Quinzel, the psychiatrist that analyzes people's minds. So it's a weird dynamic. I want to see where they're going to go with that. And obviously she's iconic because the look, from the animated series where she was created into the book and the games that have come out recently, she has this sort of sexual thing about her like any other, female comics character does, but a lot of people seem to draw towards her to play, do cosplay and make a sexy Harley Quinn costume every year.
Yeah, I like this character. I wouldn't be surprised if they went along the lines of creepy, like Heath Ledger's Joker, because of course that was so successful and so iconic, but also because you know what? DC does do things pretty dark, and they've already started off with a really dark tone with Man of Steel. Batman versus Superman looks like it's lightening things up a little bit, but this to me is going to be your dark movie. Like, you have a bunch of anti-heroes. I would not be surprised if this was just super serious. Like, not a lot of jokes, maybe some, played off comedy in a sense, but not like a Marvel film where there's just jokes around every corner waiting to, punch you in the face. I'm really excited for this. The Joker's daughter, too, just, you bring that in there and you get a heck of a team. But once again, I think one of the best parts for this is that they do kind of have the freedom to do whatever they want to do with this, and nobody's going to complain because there's so much history to pull from that they could literally go anywhere with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, is like, I forgot to mention this, too. Amanda Waller, the person that's supposed to be, like, behind the Suicide Squads and the newer incarnations, I want to see where they're going to go with her, too, because she's very much a conflicted character where she's bad. She's like the evil good guy in this sense, where she's the one that rounds up all these people out of, prison or their various whatever's wrong with them. But there's that hint of like a dark thing, like you said. It's a very dark. It's a weird comic book because you got a giant talking shark in the ones that I'm reading. It could be crazy where they go with this, but they do have the bits of comedy with Harley Quinn being there, still being, trying to be the Joker of the book, but Deadshot is there to be serious. So I want to, like, Floyd Lawton, Slade Wilson, and Harley will be obviously the three main characters. They're going to be the three most well-known people that they put in this movie, regardless of who else they get.
Yeah, well, so definitely be watching for some casting news there. And Amanda Waller is also known as Power Girl, correct?
Amanda Waller is like a bunch of different things. There's a lot of, let's see, I'm trying to look it up, but she has a lot of different
like incarnations and personalities and such. Yeah,
it looks like she's more of a special agent as opposed to the Power Girl.
Okay, see, I couldn't remember. I knew I'd seen her name. I just looked it up. She's also been an incarnation of Mockingbird in the DC universe. That's probably where I got confused with that. But so that's another interesting film coming out the same year as Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. And then the next year, we get the Wonder Woman solo film in 2017 with Gal Gadot. Once again, reprising her role, and I'm guessing that this is going to be the origin story. They said they're definitely going New 52 with it. They're not going to have her made out of clay. They're going to stick with her New 52 origin to make it a little bit more grounded in reality, because that seems to be what DC likes to go for.
Yeah, you could. That's definitely the best way to go, because the other Wonder Woman origin story, where she's, like you said, made out of clay, and she's like this Wonder Woman, the super god of the Amazon culture. Like, there's way crazier things that they could do with this, but as you said, the New 52 Wonder Woman origin story is definitely going to be the way to go with this film.
Yeah, DC would never go and tell her original origin story. It would be way out of character for the universe that they've already established, because that's kind of the negative with what they did with Man of Steel, is you have now set the tone for your entire universe, and you absolutely cannot go away from that too much, or otherwise people are going to call you out on it, and they haven't been established long enough for them to get that kind of credibility to be allowed to do that. So she's going to be a demigod. She's going to be she's going to be the daughter of Zeus. I think this is a good way to go with it. And personally, I think I'm really curious now, because we're going to talk. Like, I don't want to like jump off of Wonder Woman and be that person, but Mike, I don't know. Like, what do you expect? Just real quick, as far as villains go, like, who would you expect to see? Like, who do you think would even make sense?
For Wonder Woman?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's the thing, is if they're going away from her like Amazonian princess thing, I don't know what they could do with it. I'm trying to find some sort of.
You see, it's interesting for me because I noticed that one of her main villains is the Cheetah, which was also a Suicide Squad character, correct? At some point, was Cheetah part of the Suicide Squad?
Yeah, Cheetah was in the Suicide Squad at one point. They could go that way, but it's like man, where is it? I'm trying to find it as I'm flying around on the internet here.
Yeah, they could. I'm also curious, if she is a demigod, maybe you have Hades come into this at some point. Maybe you have some of these Greek gods, because obviously they've established that they're real, which is odd, grounded in reality, but yet she's born of Zeus. Well, he had to find a way to get her in there somehow. So I'm just really curious. You know what? They could go so many. I like this. I like that DC has finally given us a reason to give a crap about their characters, to know their backstories, know who their villains are other than Batman's rogues gallery, know who your heroes are other than Arrow, a.k.a. Abman on the CW, and The Flash, who's doing pretty good on CW, and, Gotham, Batman, woohoo. But, I'm really curious, because this is the thing, is her villains are not well known, so it's not like you can just pick an easy one,
Yeah, it does. From what I'm reading too, it looks like Hades is one of her main villains in the New 52. Like I don't read a Wonder Woman book that often. I'm not a big Wonder Woman fan because, like you said, I'm more into the comics that are somewhat more grounded in reality. Suicide Squad and Fables are kind of like their own little genres to me, but like it could go crazy. It could go. Here's where is it? Central Rogues Gallery. So she has Ares. This was in the 1940s. The Blue Snowman, Cheetah. Oh, Circe. That's the one I was looking for. That's the most common one, I think.
Okay.
Another Greek mythological character. So Dr. Psycho and Giganta. She fights Hades, Medusa. So like, if there's a sort of Greek mythology-based character in the DC universe, she's fighting them.
Okay, and then now that leads into the next film, which is, of course, the big one. In 2017, The Justice League Part 1, directed by Zack Snyder, with Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, and Amy Adams, and so on and so forth, Gal Gadot, the Justice League. Now this is where it's going to get interesting, Mike. Because they already used General Zod in Man of Steel, and they've already pretty much shown with their upcoming slate of films that this is who's going to be in the Justice League. It's going to be the New 52 Justice League with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Green Lantern, Aquaman, and Cyborg. Who do you think they bring in as the villain?
Obviously Zod I think is out because it doesn't really fit with everything. And the Legion of Doom is going back to like my knowledge of the Super Friends cartoon from like the late 70s. But it's like they could get Black Manta in there because he was involved in that. I wouldn't see the Joker being in there. Solomon Grundy maybe if they pulled him out of thin air. You know what I mean? Like you got to find villains that crossed over between a bunch of characters. So, kind of like the DC Universe Online game, you can get somebody like a Morgana. That's another Wonder Woman character who's supposed to be the daughter of Morgan Le Fay. But like people like that, like weird, you're gonna have to pull a lot of odd characters from all over, and hopefully maybe this might be the first appearance of Lex Luthor that could set up the next Superman movie.
Yeah, I actually think Lex is supposed to make his debut in Batman vs. Superman, but I don't think that they'd use him as... I think he'll be in the Justice League movie, possibly pulling the strings, but I doubt we will see him as, the main villain in a Justice League film, because once again, he'd have to cross over somehow, but maybe that is why they're putting him in Dawn of Justice. I don't know. It's entirely possible, but a guy who I don't think they'll use is Darkseid, or Darkseid. I think it's Darkseid.
Darkseid.
What about this? What about Brainiac? What do you think about Brainiac?
Well, see, Brainiac would be good. So here's the list of the Legion of Doom. You had Bizarro, Black Manta, Brainiac, Captain Cold, Cheetah, Giganta, Gorilla Grodd, Lex Luthor, the Riddler, the Scarecrow, Sinestro, Solomon Grundy, and Toyman. Now, Sinestro would be good because it sets up another villain for another movie that we'll talk about in a minute, and that's a little bit of my great foreshadowing. But you have Cheetah and Giganta, which are your Wonder Woman villains. Bizarro and Lex Luthor and Brainiac, to an extent, are Superman villains. Black Manta for the Aquaman. Riddler and Scarecrow get your Batman tie-in. So you have a villain from everybody if they were going to do the Legion of Doom thing. But I don't like some of these, like Gorilla Grodd, that's a very obscure villain. Toyman as well, very obscure. Solomon Grundy is kind of obscure, but people know him because it's like a child's nursery rhyme type thing, I think.
Okay.
But I could see a lot of those people making sense. It just all really depends on what's going on.
Yeah, and I don't think they'd go that far out to bring in the Legion of Doom at the first movie, although I think it'd be awesome. I feel like they'd want to build towards that, with some of the solo films that they have coming out. To me, I think Brainiac would make the most sense. Get another guy in there who's super powered, who's once again a villain of Superman, since that's how they kind of started building this universe, and somebody who's not grounded in reality, who has little special powers that it's going to take all of these heroes together to defeat. I'm not quite sure how they're going to assemble this team. That to me is still the biggest mystery at this point. Is Batman versus Superman to me could be a complete, absolute cluster mess in how they bring everybody together, because the Avengers did it through solo films, and DC's just bringing them all into one. In Dawn of Justice and then in the Justice League. It's like, well, okay. I hope you have an idea, Warner Brothers, because it seems like you're really rushing this.
Yeah, it's going to be weird, but they could bring in Brainiac because the New 52, that Future's End. Brainiac's a big part of that story arc. That you see that around issue 21. He's coming into it. They tease it and they talk about him, but he finally makes an appearance. And man, so if they're gonna stick with like a newer version of everything, I think that Brainiac would be probably the best if they're gonna, just because of what's going on in their big comic event right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they went that route. A lot of the movies are tending to stray towards the newer stuff because the Silver Age and the Golden Age and all that. Those heroes were great, but people now want something grounded in reality, yes, or at least relatively believable. And I think that Brainiac would be the good way to go with that. So, if the Flash appears in the Justice League film, which he should, then guess what, fans? You won't have to wait long to see him. Completely detached from the TV universe, you will have the Flash solo film in 2018 starring Ezra Miller. Mike, I was very surprised to see this, too, because I thought, okay, Flash TV show, never going to see him in the movies. And then, just when I thought I knew what was going on, DC says, nope, we have something up our sleeves here.
Yeah, they just want to get it on they want to cash in, I think. They see what's going on with their recent boom in getting all this stuff on television. I mean, including, I know we're focusing more on DC here, but with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on TV too, you pretty much have Batman on Monday, S.H.I.E.L.D. on Tuesday, and from what I understand, I don't know what day Arrow is on.
Yeah, the Flash and Arrow are both on Tuesday as well.
Yeah, so like you have 3 days, and then with Constantine coming up here at the end of the month.
Or actually, no, Flash is on Tuesdays and Arrow is on Wednesday. I apologize. So
Thursday's the only day without a superhero TV show on.
Right. Well, The Big Bang Theory will be on Thursdays for all you nerds out there who like that show, when I'm not one of them.
Yeah,
but...
that's technically a Warner Brothers thing as well, but we're like.
Yeah, and then Constantine is on Fridays. So
yes, Constantine's going to be on Friday, so you're going to have a full week of superhero stuff. They notice that all that's going on, and like I keep saying, like it's a good time to be in like a nerd and into the comic book stuff because all of this stuff is just blowing up.
Yep, it's been awesome. And for those of you who don't know who Ezra Miller is, don't worry, we didn't either. His biggest film, Mike, was what?
The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which is about 2 years old at this point, which seems to be a very big cult and independent hit. He won some awards at independent film festivals for his work in that, so he can't be that bad of an actor, but then again, how much of an acting do you have to do to be the Flash when you just run around really fast?
Yeah, exactly. And I look at this, he's been in some other things too, like he's been in Californication, the TV series. He was in Royal Pain, which was a TV series. So he's got some experience. He's a younger guy. He's only 22 years old, so by the time they make this movie, he will be 26. And so when he's in the Justice League movie, he'll be 25. So at least he's younger. I like that, depending on which incarnation they go with. I think that'll be good. And I look at this too, and you've had Quicksilver in an X-Men film who has super speed. You have Quicksilver in the Avengers this summer coming up with super speed. You have the Flash TV show. Clearly the budget is there to do this well, and I think that this is the time to bring him out. And I think if you have his first solo film against, somebody like Reverse Flash or someone like that, just establish his villain immediately, or maybe bring in somebody else. You could do a lot. The Flash actually has a very interesting rogues gallery. Captain Cold is also one of his main villains. We've already mentioned him a few times. So I'm excited about this. I think it'll be good.
It can't be any worse than the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie. That's like the real, like, nothing can be as bad as that.
That was terrible.
Like, I don't like to talk about that movie because I'm not a big fan of the Green Lantern. I keep going on record as saying that, but like, it can't be terrible. It could, like, there's nowhere to go but up for the Flash. I feel like Flash is a very well known character. Everybody knows the Flash. But now it's a chance for them to get like an actual following for the Flash outside of the comic book community.
Absolutely. And immediately, the first thing that came to my mind when I saw this is they have their way out. Meaning, whenever they want to reboot their film universe, you just do the Flashpoint story, and you can reboot. Because that will reset everything, you know? You have immediately bought your ticket out.
Yeah, you got your Flashpoint paradox and all that good stuff. And you get everybody out, and then you start over.
Yep, they used that as their way to get the new 52, and I wouldn't be shocked if they used that as their way out of their films as well, especially picking a younger Flash. That way you could potentially have him in both, and it would work out well. Later on that year, moving on to the next film, is Aquaman solo film, starring Jason Momoa, who we've known this for a while. He's been cast in Batman v Superman and in the Justice League film. He's really well known in the nerd community for the various things that he's done, and I'm excited about this. They didn't make Aquaman a weenie. Like, I thought they were going to go with somebody like Ryan Gosling as Aquaman, which would have been okay. It'd just be a different incarnation of Aquaman. Clearly, they chose to go with the BA version of Aquaman, the tough and gritty one.
Yeah, he's the movie, like Aquaman himself, another one of these DC characters that I really don't care for, but Jason Momoa, aka Khal Drogo, is my dude. So I will go see it just based on the fact that he might, like, cut somebody's head off or something, which I know probably won't happen, but, like, I just want to see what he looks like in the Aquaman costume. If that doesn't, like, that's another thing. I want to see what they do with the Aquaman thing. Like, his look. What is the Aquaman look going to be?
Right. Does he look like the new 52 Aquaman that Jeff Johns did, or is he like the old Aquaman? You know, I'm incredibly intrigued by this. We'll find out, of course, in 2016 when Batman v Superman comes out. Okay, what does he look like? But once again, now you're going to take it to a different realm. It's going to hopefully be underwater, I hope. I pray that they have this in Atlantis. Kind of like Thor in Asgard. I want to see Aquaman in Atlantis. I want to see what's going on. You know, is Aqualad there? You know, are there a bunch of Atalanteans around there? I want to see this. And I think Black Manta, right off the bat, is probably going to be your villain. He's the most well-known. He's got that crossover potential to be in stuff like the Suicide Squad, and we may already been introduced to him. But, Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Aquaman needs Black Manta. That's his Joker, realistically. Like, he can't have, like, that. It's just such a weird thing. Like, if it's not in Atlantis, it doesn't make sense. Just like if Thor wasn't in Asgard, it wouldn't have made sense. Like, you can't just have a dude that's supposed to be able to walk around and talk to fishes and breathe underwater just walking around a city.
Which is why him being in Batman v Superman is going to be very odd. But hey, we'll go with it.
But it's like, that too, it's like, why is he going to be in that? Where is the, like, if they're doing the Batman, the Dark Knight Returns thing, it's like, where's Green Arrow? Green Arrow's part of that storyline, like, towards the end.
Green Arrow is hanging out on the CW, flexing his abs for the ladies. That's where he is.
And it's like, that's the real, like, thing. Like, where is he?
It's a fair question. You know what? They clearly are only using the comics as a light basis for how they're going to do this. I mean, Marvel's done the same thing with some of their films. Like, Scott Lang is going to be your main Ant-Man moving forward, not Hank Pym, even though Hank Pym has spent way more time in the suit. But they're using some of those, you know, things as the basis. So, and then the Wasp is going to be Hank Pym's daughter instead of his wife. So, you know what? I don't have a problem with DC changing things up a little bit. But at least if you're going to bring a character in, at least keep the character and how they look and the characterization of that character the same. Because that's what people love about these films. We don't go because an actor is playing the part. Listen, I'll see a film regardless of who's wearing the Batman suit. But play them well. Play the part well. Show me that you can play a Bruce Wayne. At least prove to me that you can act, you know?
Yeah. Well, purely going to see Aquaman because Jason Momoa is in it. But
Jason Momoa is awesome, man. Everything I've seen him in, I'm just like, man, that guy is the true definition of a stud and of, what's the word I'm looking for? A bohemian. He is a bohemian when I look at him.
Here's another thing. Like, King Shark is one of the Aquaman villains. Like I said, he's also involved in the Suicide Squad. So they have two villains that they could introduce in Suicide Squad that then could pop up in the Aquaman film 2.5, 3 years later.
Yeah, and I expect this Aquaman film to prove that Aquaman is not some pansy fairy, weenie. He is tough. He's gritty. He can kick just as much butt as everybody else. I know that TV loves to make fun of Aquaman and say, oh, he sucks. He's the worst of the Justice League. Well, guess what? If you read enough comics, you will know that that's not true. Yes, the concept in itself is a little bit silly. So is Superman. So is Batman. So is Iron Man. So is Spider-Man, for goodness sake. All of them are a little bit... Green Lantern is the silliest of all. So, you know what? Let it be. The guy's gonna... I think that Jason Momoa is perfect casting for what they're gonna do with the character.
Yeah, I think King Shark, like, I'm just looking more at this King Shark thing. Like, that could... They have the special effects to do this, to where, like you were just saying, they can do the super speed thing and it looks good. I think they could do the shark thing underwater and then have him like just like that's the weirdest part is the like reading the Suicide Squad comics and seeing King Shark just like walking around in open air and then like freaking out after a while. If he like gets dehydrated, he just goes into like killing mode and starts eating people. It's nuts. I think that would be awesome. Put King Shark in the movie. That's what I want. Screw Black Manta.
Yeah,
King Shark.
Yeah, and to me, you know what? DC could go anywhere with this. I really would not. I won't be surprised with whatever they decide to bring out here. Looking at King Shark, he looks pretty awesome. He looks like he'd be a good physical threat for Aquaman as well. So, you know what? That's two different places that they could go. I like that. I think they got choices here with Aquaman, and I'm excited.
That's where you prove that Aquaman isn't, the sissy that everybody makes him out to be. You have him fight a gigantic, huge monster shark humanoid thing that looks like it could rip buildings apart if it wanted to.
Yeah, and the thing, too, that I like is that the technology to do good underwater stuff exists, because Avatar, and that was years ago, by the time this film is made, that movie will be old. Avatar proved you can do a really good underwater movie, and it looks really good in 3D if you take the time to do it well. So they have all those things going for it in Aquaman, and leading out of that into the second part of the Justice League Part 2, once again directed by Zack Snyder in 2019. This one is where I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in, Darkseid or the Legion of Doom. I think that this is the movie that would make sense, because then you've built up towards it, you have the origins out of the way, and we would understand why these guys would want to come together and fight the Justice League. Yeah,
exactly. That makes a lot more sense. I'd like to see them in the first movie, but in the second part of it, it would make a lot more sense because they've been beat. The Justice League, obviously, in the first one has, well, not obviously. This is where I think this is going to go. Justice League wins the first movie. They have to come back to lose the beginning of the second movie in order to win at the end. So that would be a good point to get them. Or at the end, you do like the Empire Strikes Back thing, where they lose at the end of the first movie, and they, reveal why they lost because there's this big group of supervillains that have teamed up to stop them. And then they end like Return of the Jedi, where everybody wins and all the good guys are happy, and there may or may not be Muppets dancing around.
Yeah, I'd be down. I would be down to see some Muppets dancing around. But the thing with me with this, I want to just mention this. I'm glad that they're letting Zack Snyder helm all of these films, because it's going to give you a sense of continuity, because it allows one guy's vision to just play out. It's like, Marvel with Joss Whedon. They let him have the Avengers and the Avengers 2, and he's kind of been orchestrating, he's been involved in every film that Marvel has done since he was brought in. So he's been involved in Iron Man 3 and Captain America the Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy. He's had a piece of all of these films so that he can build the universe. And if they are indeed building a shared universe, then this is brilliant. Zack Snyder loves the characters. that is the first thing. You have to love the characters that you're working with. And he's already admitted he is a fanboy of everything Batman, Superman, and, The Dark Knight Returns. So this is great. I'm glad that Warner Brothers finally let DC actually do something good.
Yeah, as opposed to just putting out movies with, George Clooney and Val Kilmer playing Batman.
Yeah, or just, we're going to make The Dark Knight Rises, but we're going to change everything because, well, The Dark Knight made a bunch of money for us, and this one's going to make a bunch of money for us. So, screw comic book continuity, screw everybody's backgrounds. We're just going to make the movie as entertaining as we think it should be. And it's like, oh, boy.
Yeah, then you run into the Transformers dynamic with Michael Bay and everything just explodes.
Yep, everything just explodes. And it's very visually entertaining, but at the end of the day, you're like, man, that movie was not that good.
What just happened?
Yeah. Like, man, I'm not sure if I just wasted 2 hours of my life or if that was awesome. I don't want to walk out of a Justice League film thinking that. And so it's interesting, too, that they're keeping their Justice League films away from when Marvel is scheduled to release Avengers films. Good move, bad move? Are they being kind of, wusses about this whole thing? Or what do you, from a business side, obviously it makes sense, but how do you think it's playing in Warner Brothers?
Oh, yeah, that's definitely the smartest thing that they could do for themselves. Like, you don't want to go up against something that's already established. They have, like you were just saying, the Marvel movies, especially the Avengers, their team-up movie made huge dollars. And it's going to make even bigger dollars when Age of Ultron comes out. So it's like, why would you go up against something that's already proven to be a moneymaker when you have something that may or may not actually draw money to the company?
Right. And I see this as, what, Warner Brothers said, let's just try it. You know what? This is working. And the thing is that they hopefully have learned from the Marvel films is all of these films need to have a different vibe. The Flash cannot be dark. The Flash as a dark character does not work. You have to make him entertaining. You have to make him funny and a little quirky. So don't make this just the dark universe. Don't make this Nolan's Justice League. Make this Zack Snyder and stay true to the characters. Make them all a little bit different. And I'll be happy. Like, seriously. You know what? And that kind of transitions into the next film. Cyborg. Make Cyborg like a Terminator film. Make that the way it should be done. With Ray Fisher, he's a relatively unknown actor. He does a lot of Shakespearean stuff. Batman v Superman next year is actually going to be his first major film that he's done. And so this is very good casting, in my opinion. You don't need to get somebody that everybody knows because he's only going to be half there anyway. Get somebody who actually knows how to act. And that's exactly what they did. And I like it.
Yeah, that's big. But we're skipping over a movie.
Oh, we did?
The Shazam movie.
Oh, Shazam. That's right.
Or as he used to be known, Captain Marvel, and then DC stole him, and they got sued and they had to change the name. But so Shazam, we already know that The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is going to be playing Black Adam. I don't think they've put out who's going to be Shazam or AKA Billy Bastion, his secret identity.
Right. Yeah. They haven't. I do apologize for skipping the Shazam movie. It's only one little line and it doesn't say anything next to it, so I just completely overlooked it on the press release by Warner Brothers. But yeah, we know that The Rock is going to be in this, so this one's going to do well because him playing a superhero and he's going to have a little bit of humor. Once again, another anti-hero.
Black Adam
is
the villain in this movie. He is all the villain. He has to be the villain. Because I don't think Shazam has any other.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they'll keep him as the villain, and then I think if they were going to spin this off into anything, I think then you would make a Black Adam film and make him the anti-hero, kind of like Suicide Squad. Because that's what The Rock mentioned in his interview. He's like, obviously I'm the villain for this film. He says, but, Black Adam is an anti-hero. And so we never know where that could lead. That's a very long ways away at this point. That's 5 years away on its release date, 2019. For him to be announcing all of this, but you know what? At least they're going to take their time with it, and hopefully that movie is fun too. Like, I don't know, this is where you kind of get into is this movie connected? Because Shazam is way different than everything else on DC's movie universe at this point. So, what do you think, Mike? Do you think this movie's connected, or do you think that Shazam is going to be just its standalone film? It's good on its own. Just let it be a good film.
He is in the Justice League at some point. I don't think if, like we were saying, it's going to be the new 52 Justice League, then he's not involved. But they could tie him in somewhere and just get him if they want to connect everything. Because where does he really fit in? As a standalone thing, is anybody really that interested in Shazam to have him be a standalone character? Or do you put him in? You have to. I feel like you have to put him in. There we go. That's what I'm getting my roundabout way of saying, that you have to put him in the Justice League universe, because I don't think there's enough interest for him to sit by himself and be, the guy, because he's essentially Superman.
Right, yeah. Cut from the same cloth.
But, he's a kid that can say Shazam and then turns into this guy with this magical powers.
Which is interesting in its own right, too, so... but then going back to Cyborg now, kind of wrapping up. So hopefully Shazam is part of a shared universe. Hopefully all these films are part of the same universe. And if not, screw you, Warner Brothers, for being a bunch of wimps. But Cyborg too. I'm there's not a whole lot we know about Cyborg, obviously. He's not like one of those solo characters that they put on everything. But I like the concept because we have seen the Vision in the Marvel films now. Terminator films have been successful, so you know that robot films can work. Transformers has been successful, even though that's not like the same thing. I like this, and I'm glad that they're giving him a solo film to flesh out his origin. But once again, this is really far away. 2020 is a long time to be waiting for this film.
Yeah, that's a long way away. The technology is only going to increase around, the next 5.5 years. So there's going to be ways to make the CG look better, because obviously they're not going to put him in a costume. Cyborg is obviously a cyborg. He's part human, he's part machine.
Yeah.
There's got to be something there to where it's going to have to be some sort of computer-generated imaging. But that said, I think there could be a lot done with the character. Cyborg, as I know him, I'm only, familiar with his Teen Titans Go thing. His character on that show on, the Cartoon Network. So he's very funny on there, but also that's meant to be like a kid's show, but he's supposed to be like a comic guy. Him and Beast Boy have this weird relationship. But all of his villains are, for looking at it, he has a bunch of villains that are also robots. So like he has to have people that look, like robots fighting him.
Yeah, just make this like a Terminator film, or like Avengers: Age of Ultron is going to be next summer, where there's a bunch of robots and robot apocalypse. But my thing too with this is, and this is the route that I hope they go, because this is what they do with Iron Man. Tony Stark wears a suit. Robert Downey Jr. wears a suit in every movie, but they enhance it with CGI. So you have the foundation of something real to help give it the look so that it doesn't look completely crappy, and then just make it better with CGI. Fill in all the holes, make everything else look good. Like the Winter Soldier's arm in Captain America the Winter Soldier. That was mostly CGI, but there was some reality in there too. So I think that they have their templates. It'd be really difficult to screw this up, but if anybody can, it's probably going to be Warner Brothers.
Yeah, let's be realistic. We do have those early, or not even early, the mid to late 90s Batman films to fall back on.
And a certain film with Ryan Reynolds that we will not mention here, involving a ring. Yeah.
He also gets that, that gets another look, because now in 2020, as well as Cyborg, there's supposed to be a Green Lantern film.
Yep, they have officially confirmed this is a reboot of Green Lantern. It is not a sequel to the Ryan Reynolds film. It is completely different. And so they have a chance with improved, sense of what actually is going to work, and seeing different cosmic things work with Marvel and with Star Wars. That there will be probably 2 Star Wars films out by then. They have a chance to show their cosmic side of things with Guardians of the Galaxy and Marvel. Now let's see what DC has. I was really unimpressed with Ryan Reynolds' movie. It was stupid beyond all belief, and I think that waiting this long to let people get that bad taste out of their mouth is a good idea. But how the heck do you bring the Green Lantern into the Justice League before this film? How does he work? He's another alien. Like, this is going to be weird.
Well, that's the thing, is it depends on what Green Lantern they're going to use. If they use not the alien guys. Oh man, I got to think of his name.
Oh, the black one? I'm thinking, that was bad. No racism, people.
No, well, that's the first, what's his name? Hal Jordan?
Yeah, Hal Jordan.
If they move in with Hal Jordan, that's the one before the next one.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Hal Jordan. I think that'd be cool, but I don't think they'll go that route.
He would be... This all ties into what they do with the Justice League, too. If they do that Legion of Doom, they have Sinestro, they have his villain there, to where, you have the ring kind of established already, because Sinestro wears the yellow ring for his thing, and then, you have Green Lantern come in with his Green Lantern nonsense.
Yeah, Simon Baz. I was thinking of Simon Baz. I apologize that I couldn't seem to get that out of my mouth. I don't think that they're going to use Simon Baz. That is not happening.
Yeah, you have, there's several different... Which one did Ryan Reynolds use?
He did the Jon Stewart version, I believe.
Okay.
Where he was a pilot and did all this stuff, and, that one was weird, but...
I can tell you what direction they're not going to go. They're not going to do Alan Scott. No. Because that was the first Green Lantern in, the 1940s. Now, obviously, he does have a spot in the New 52 with the DC multiverse and all that nonsense that's going on, and you see him referred to in some of the Batman I believe it was either Year One or the Dark Knight, or Hush. They talk about it too, where the Green Lantern goes back. He talks about the childhood seeing the Green Lantern in Gotham City or whatever, but don't expect to see that version of the Green Lantern.
Yeah, and I want to make a correction. It was Hal Jordan, actually, who Ryan Reynolds played. Jon Stewart was originally going to be who they used, but then they decided to go away from that. So that was kind of crappy. And actually, I wouldn't be surprised if they just went back to Hal Jordan, because Hal Jordan, if they're sticking with the New 52, which is what it looks like they're doing, Hal Jordan is the New 52 incarnation of the Green Lantern. So that's where I wouldn't be surprised, like you said. Sinestro, get him in there, make him the villain, and then have Hal Jordan be the guy.
And you don't have to CGI a suit on him. Please, just let him wear a suit.
Yeah, same thing.
Everybody else.
Let him wear a suit, enhance it with CGI, don't make it look like poo, and we'll all and don't have Ryan Reynolds, and we'll all be happy.
It doesn't even need to be enhanced. The suit can be the suit. Anything that needs to be enhanced is the ring itself and what the ring does. So if it changes his suit, then you CGI it. But put him in a Batman or a Superman type suit where it's a thing. It's on his body. It's not, him wearing a green screen around and then putting a fake suit on him, because that's what made the Ryan Reynolds movie so ridiculous.
Yeah, they went way above and beyond what they needed to do with that, and kind of bothered. It's bothersome because it just looked awful. It wasn't one of those things that it looked visually stunning. It was visually stunning in that you walked out of there not believing what you just saw, wanting to vomit out of crap. Well,
I feel like it was a test of their, technical abilities. They were trying to test what they could do with their CGI stuff.
Yeah, and as we found out, they couldn't do very much. So we've established that we want to see Black Manta, we want to see Sinestro, we want to see, possibly, King Shark. And I'm guessing that, okay, so there's a few movies that aren't on this list, Mike, that I want to speculate on. That two of them have been confirmed to be in development, and that is a Batman solo film and Man of Steel 2. So I'm guessing Lex Luthor is going to be Man of Steel 2's villain, because why else would you have him in a Superman film, like Batman v Superman, if you're not going to use him at some point. But then I want to talk about Batman. Okay, we've seen the Joker. on film. We've seen the Penguin, we've seen Bane twice, we've seen Poison Ivy. Mike, who do you want to see as the Batman villain in this new universe? Do you think they immediately go to Joker, or do you think that they're going to dig into Batman's rogues gallery and give us someone new who hasn't been on screen before, which is what I personally would like to see?
I don't think they're going to touch the Joker ever again. Or it's going to be a really long time between, the Heath Ledger Joker and a new Joker. Look at how long it took them to touch the Joker from the 1990 Batman with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson's son. Jack Nicholson is a golfer. But Jack Nicholson, it took them 25 years, almost to give us a new Joker because it was such an iconic character. The way that Heath Ledger played it is too good to even touch at this point. It's too fresh in everybody's mind. But I would like to see, now this is a stretch, but if they could get a Riddler that made sense. So, like, Jim Carrey played it great in that movie, even though the rest of the movie was kind of eh. I'd like to see the Riddler, or they have this, it is established, even if, this isn't, if they title this a Batman reboot, then it doesn't make sense, but you could go back to Two-Face. Because whatever really happened with Harvey Dent and Two-Face in The Dark Knight Rises.
He was the weakest part of the film for me. Was in The Dark Knight was the Two-Face story. I felt like it was okay, but you really didn't get much time with Two-Face. You got a lot of time with Harvey Dent.
Exactly. So where do you go from there? Like, if they want to bring that back, amazing. Tommy Lee Jones, another guy that did that role pretty well in that terrible Batman movie that he was in. But I think that they could go with the Riddler or Two-Face. You could even put them two together like they did in that movie. I don't want to see the Penguin. I don't want to see Scarecrow because that's been done. It wasn't that, and that was played very well in the first two Batman movies with Christopher Nolan. So like no Bane because we just did that. Who else? I'm trying to pull.
I'm wondering if Harley Quinn, because we've mentioned her a bunch. Do you put Harley Quinn as the villain, as part of a team of villains? Like maybe have a few different Batman villains in a film together, and potentially then you would have a reason to have the Bat family. You'd have Batman, Batgirl, and Nightwing together or something. I don't know.
Keep Nightwing off of my television or movie screens. If you can't do Harley Quinn by herself without the Joker. If they're gonna establish Deathstroke, I could see a Deathstroke movie with Batman. That would be, they could take all of my money at that point.
Do they fight each other? Do him and do Batman and Deathstroke have a comic history together, or is that just a crossover you'd like to see?
They do. Deadshot, like this goes into the animated movies as well, like, and the games is like Deathstroke, Deadshot, and Batman all have this weird kind of thing, but like.
So you could even have a team up of those two, and then maybe have Harley Quinn in there as well against Batman.
Those two dudes really don't like each other, which is why I'm excited kind of for the new Suicide Squad book when I start reading it, because they both think that they're like the best killing machine.
Well, they both have dead or death in their names, so they have that.
Well, I'm trying to like I wouldn't like to see Catwoman or Poison Ivy.
I would like to see Catwoman as an anti-hero, just kind of like she was in The Dark Knight Rises, but better. Get more time with Catwoman.
Yeah, man.
What about a serious Penguin? Because I know Danny DeVito played the Penguin, but what about a serious version of the Penguin?
I don't really want to like that. The Penguin, great villain. I'm not really. The Penguin has to be kind of over the top, though. Like, it has to be done kind of like Danny DeVito did it. And a little bit less like what's going on in the Gotham TV show. But I'm trying to just pull Batman villains out of the universe by looking up in the air in my house. But it's not really working.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind the Riddler on screen, I think that the way that they would go with another Batman film is because obviously this is later on in Batman's career. So you have, you know, if they did the Dark Knight Returns, then that means that the Joker story is already done. Like, the Joker has done what he did. They'd established that all of this has already happened. So, you know, like I said, I think Harley Quinn is possible because they could allude to the Joker. They could allude to that's why Batman was not doing Batman things for a while. It was because of the Joker. And then that way you completely get around that. You'd never even have to use him in this universe. I think a story with like the Riddler and like Harley Quinn, or like you said, get Deadshot in there, or just Deathstroke, something like that. Have it tie into your universe, you know? Have something like that.
I'd like to. Here's looking through this. This is what I want to see. Hush. I think the Hush storyline would be great here. Hush or Hugo Strange.
Okay, what's the Hush story for people who aren't familiar?
All right, so Hush is a doctor. It's one of actually Batman's friends from his childhood. So they go back and, you know, Bruce Wayne is playing Batman and somebody cuts one of his lines as he's swinging with his grappling hook. Puts him down. He has like brain trauma, his head swelling, and they have to call in this surgeon to come help him, and that's Tommy Elliott, Bruce Wayne's, you know, childhood best friend. And I think that would be good. So you have Batman kind of messed up. This guy comes in to save him, but it's, you know, Batman then has to try and figure out what's going on. He goes and he sees Superman in this storyline. The Riddler's involved. The Joker's there, kinda. It's like there's a lot of characters that they could pull in if they do the Justice League stuff. If this becomes during the Justice League story arc, they can pull villains from the Justice League as well as, you know, Batman and Wonder Woman and Lois Lane and those type of people, because he gets to talk to a bunch of DC Universe people.
All right, yeah, I'd totally be down for that. And then, so kind of just wrapping up our discussion here, the other movie that I presume would happen in order to make it a true trilogy would be the Justice League Part 3, and you have to go Darkseid. Like, that's got to be your final villain of all villains. Either have Darkseid and the Legion of Doom, or just Darkseid, and let that be your colossal threat that everybody has to come back together for, and threatens the entire world, the entire universe, your Apocalypse-type character. Mike, what are your thoughts? What do you know? What storylines of Darkseid are you familiar with, and do you think that he's even adaptable? And would they go there to kind of finish off their Justice League trilogy?
See, I'm not really that much familiar with Darkseid. I know that he is sort of... He's the guy that kind of tries to wipe everything out in the Batman and Superman animated series and things, and of course in the comic books. They also have the option of doing the war between Earth 1 and Earth 2 kind of thing, where the DC version of Apocalypse comes, he's fighting Earth 2, and they somehow jump to Earth 1, and then they have that big crossover craziness, which allows them to throw in some other smaller heroes that they can get in there.
And you could reboot your universe that way by having Earth 2 younger Superman or Earth 2, you know, younger Batman all of a sudden show up, and it's like, hey, look, there's another it's a crisis event, everybody.
Yeah, that's the thing, is they could go Final Crisis if they wanted to do Darkseid. Now that was a more recent DC comic thing in 2008, so they could go with that. Let's see, the battle. There's a lot of ways that they could go, I feel like, and you know, you have a lot of ways that they could close up a lot of loose ends in this stuff.
Yeah, I'm incredibly curious. You know, obviously there's a lot that we don't know right now, but we've been talking about this for a while, and I think that, you know, just to kind of wrap up this discussion, Mike, I'm excited that Warner Brothers and DC have finally given us something to be excited about. They've done a lot of good stuff with their television side. They're very good with, you know, The Flash and Arrow. They've been very proactive in everything with that, including with Gotham. So, at this point, I think now we just have to wait and see. You know, we just want to make sure that you guys know we're going to be covering this every time that there's news on our show, on the Mad Nerds podcast. So definitely look for that on the Weekend podcast and as things come out. And so, Mike, what are your final thoughts on this? This big, earth-shattering news that DC is finally making some films here and has a plan.
I'm glad that I finally get to see some of these more obscure things like Suicide Squad get made into films, because they did do earlier this year, they did release the Assault on Arkham animated movie, which was focused on the Suicide Squad, but I want to see a real life adaptation. That's the one I'm most looking forward to. Of course, I want to see the Batman vs. Superman movie, but I don't want them to screw up all the good memories I have of reading The Dark Knight Returns, where I feel like Suicide Squad's something very new to me, to where they have more chance to wow me with that than screw something up that I have good memories with.
Right, and they've used it in Arrow, so this will obviously be a very different version. They've made it clear they have essentially made it clear now, TV and movies never going to cross. They are completely different universes. Don't even think about it. Don't worry about it. That's never going to happen. And that's a good thing. I think that that's totally fine. It's different than what Marvel's doing, but I think it's going to work just fine because you can flesh out characters more the way they're doing it.
Yeah, and I think they're doing it that way because they don't want to seem like they're doing exactly what Marvel is doing.
And that's good, because they are copying the Marvel thing by creating a shared cinematic universe, but at the same time it's a little bit different, They're not doing it in order, which we'll see if them doing these origin stories and these solo films not in order up to a, crossover film is going to work for them. We'll see. It's different, and that's good. I'm just curious. It may or may not work. Obviously, it's a 50-50 shot. They've been very mediocre in a lot of the stuff that they've done so far, but I think that this is the sign of Warner Brothers saying, okay, we're going to put our resources behind it. You can have our money to do what you need to do. As long as you have good ideas and do it well, we're behind this, and this is our new Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah, they also have those Harry Potter spin-offs in the works as well, though, too, so...
Right. Well, since we don't really know much about those, we've kind of left those out. There's also Lego films coming out. They did confirm that Lego Batman is getting a film in 2016. 2017. In 2016, they're making Ninjago, and in 2018, they're having the Lego Movie 2. The studio is releasing 3 spin-off films of Harry Potter based on J.K. Rowling's original story, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. In the extension of the Harry Potter world. Those will be in 2016, 2018, and 2020. So a lot coming from Warner Brothers. They're going to be making bank here in all kinds of different nerd ways, from kids to adults to everybody who likes anything. So this is awesome. Good for Warner Brothers to get all this out during their shareholders meeting today.
Exactly. They're trying to catch up, really. That's what a lot of this is like they see that Marvel has done well over the past 5 or 6 years with all their movies, and they need to jump in and try and catch keep up with the Joneses, if you will.
Right, and so, with that, we're going to close down our show here today. Once again, shout out to Warner Brothers for finally having a plan and for making nerds excited and talking about DC. They did it well. And once again, I'm looking forward to it. They finally have realized that people want original ideas. We don't just want to see Batman and Superman over and over again. We want to see original characters. We want something new. And finally, Warner Brothers is stepping up to give us what we want and give us something fresh all at once.
Yes, it's about time.
All right, so be sure to tune into our New York Comic-Con special. We'll have that to you probably in the next couple of days. We're going to let this one soak in with you. We hope you enjoyed the podcast today. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube page, Mad Nerds AZNV, and follow us on Facebook as well, Mad Nerds AZNV. Follow me on Twitch at Superhero Deuce. Follow me on Twitter, Superhero Deuce. And Mike, what's your tags?
Yep, Twitter and Twitch at Mike is the Hat. It's plain and simple.
All right, thank you for joining us, everybody. Hello, NSA Guy. This has been our special DC Universe podcast here, Mad Nerds.